Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the PG Show, where we talk about all things college football. I am your host, Preston Gant, and today I want to go over the retirement of Tate Martell, USC and Oklahoma football, and where do I think Caleb Williams is going to land. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So the retirement of Tate Martell. So this one is an interesting one. Tate Martell was a five-star quarterback coming out of Bishop Gorman, which is located in Nevada. He did grow up in San Diego, but he transferred to Bishop Gorman for the majority of his high school career. He was offered a scholarship in 8th grade to the University of Washington, where he later committed, but then decommitted to go to Texas A&M University. But after Tate Martell seemed to trash the Texas A&M program and the current quarterback that was there, he soon later decommitted, and then we all know the story, recommitted to Ohio State. So his senior year, he was on the show QB1, and we kind of got to see who Tate Martell was in terms of his attitude and his charisma and the way that he went about playing the game, right? It was a turnoff for some folks, but for a lot of people, they kind of liked what this kid had about him. He was the 2016 Gatorade Player of the Year. In high school, he had passed for 113 passing touchdowns. In 3 years, he only threw 9 interceptions. He had a 60% passer completion, threw for about 7,500 yards, rushed for about 2,300, and had about 35 rushing touchdowns. The man was a stud. He balled out. Nobody can deny that. Really, again, another really highly recruit coming out of high school. And I think that's what's weird, right? You don't see a lot of the time a 5-star quarterback transfer as many times as Tate Martell did and not have any success. So he committed to Ohio State after the All-American Bowl. In 2018, J.T. Barrett graduated, and that quarterback room was really deep, right? So he got on the campus in 2017. He redshirted. At that time, you had J.T. Barrett, Joe Burrow, Dwayne Haskins, and Tate Martell. 2 of those are NFL quarterbacks now. I don't exactly remember what J.T. Barrett went and did, but I think he did have a stint in the NFL. So 3 of those guys ended up going to the NFL. Don't crucify me if the J.T. Barrett thing is wrong. I didn't look that one up. But anyways, so Barrett graduated, Burrow transferred. So it looked like in 2018, it was just going to be a straight quarterback battle between Haskins and Tate Martell. Tate Martell ended up not winning that quarterback battle. And in 2019, Haskins declared for the draft, and it looked like it was going to be open for Tate Martell to take the job. And in 2018, he had a couple stints where he looked pretty good. It looked like he was the future of Ohio State football. But ultimately, we all know the story. Justin Fields came in. He transferred to Ohio State from Georgia. He didn't like the quarterback room at Georgia. He came there. Tate Martell basically said the statement, I'm going to read this off, try to get it correct, that it would take over a year for someone to learn Ryan Day's offense. Well, not like literally after a couple days, Justin Fields transfers in. Tate Martell decides to transfer to the University of Miami, where Manny Diaz is becoming the coach. Tate Martell also had a teammate from Bishop Gorman at the University of Miami. So that was just a little bit interesting. For him to have been so confident that he was going to win that job over Justin Fields, he transferred pretty quickly after. So he goes to the University of Miami and loses the job to a guy named Jarren Williams. Gonna be honest, I have no idea who he is. Never heard of him in my life, except for this time, right, where he beats out Tate Martell. So, and this isn't even at like, a small school. Like, he lost at the University of Miami to a guy named Jarren Williams, who, I don't know who he is. If you know who he is, so he ends up not winning that job, and he eventually becomes a walk-on at UNLV. Before that, he took basically a year off from football at the University of Miami, which I think the fans knew at that point that he wasn't going to come back. So he eventually became a walk-on at UNLV as a quarterback. Again, that was a school that was 2-8. He should have won as a 5-star quarterback with the talent that he had. He should have won that starting job. And again, he failed to win it as a walk-on. He should have been able to earn a scholarship, and it should have been smooth sailing from there. So he ends up becoming a receiver. So again, this is weird. This is not what I think anybody would have expected from a 5-star quarterback. And he gets to experience a lot of things that not a lot of quarterbacks get to experience, especially 5-stars. Now, yes, this year we've seen a lot of 5-star quarterbacks enter the portal. Just to name a few, you've got Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, JT Daniels out of Georgia, right? But they're not transferring 3 times. I think JT Daniels, I think this will be his 3rd time. But JT Daniels, I think, has had a little bit more success. I think with Stetson Bennett coming back, that's where I think JT Daniels is probably making the right decision to transfer. With Stetson Bennett being a national champion, the guy that led you to a national championship, I think you got to continue to roll with him. So, anyways, Tate Martell is actually going to be pursuing business ventures. His agent basically puts a notice out about it. So they said that's something that we're all going to be watching for. I'm going to be interested to see kind of where his career goes from here. We know his football career is done, but in terms of who Tate Martell is, that's going to be an interesting story to follow. Just because of his story. There might this could be a 30 for 30 one day. Think about that. The Ohio State room at one point had JT Daniels, Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, and Tate Martell. And Joe Burrow put up probably one of the best college football seasons we've ever seen. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I think we could potentially see something like that one day. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. USC, Oklahoma. If you want drama, this is it. This is where you find it, guys. So, Jackson Dart, 5-star quarterback from USC, obviously decommits with the tight end Trigg. They both take visits to the University of Oklahoma. I don't think it's likely that they commit here. I think they end up going to Ole Miss, playing for Lane Kiffin. I just think that the quarterback room here at Oklahoma, since Caleb Williams has left, has gotten pretty competitive, and I don't know if Jackson Dart wants to come into a situation where he's not going to be the clear defined starter, right? He goes to Ole Miss, he's probably going to be that starter. But it's kind of funny, right? So Lincoln Riley purges Oklahoma of their coaching staff, and then the players start to follow him, right? So, for those of you who don't know, Latrell McCutcheon actually entered in the transfer portal last week or at the beginning of this week. And, you kind of see the players that are, the former players that are a little on edge about these moves, talking about these players complaining about the coaching staff, but then wanting to go play for them. So Mario Williams actually ended up taking a visit to USC with Caleb Williams. Even came out and said, wherever Caleb is going, that is who I want to play with, right? Mario Williams, 5-star wide receiver from Florida. He was going to be, had a lot of promise, probably one of the fastest guys on the team this year for Oklahoma. I think we saw it in the Alamo Bowl. He got screwed on that play where his helmet got ripped off and he scored a touchdown. That should have continued to count. But, the rules are rules. As soon as a player's helmet comes off, it's extremely dangerous at that point, and they want to stop the play. So he ends up visiting USC and then several days later committing to USC. So this is pretty interesting, and this is kind of where I want to lead off into Caleb Williams and where I think he's going to go. So with Mario Williams wanting to play where Caleb Williams is going to be, I think we all saw Mario Williams commit and think, oh, there should be a Caleb Williams commitment coming pretty soon. But we haven't seen anything. In fact, Caleb Williams took the visit at USC, then went and took a visit to UCLA. Now, I've heard rumors, I don't know how true this stuff is, but I've heard rumors that the USC visit actually didn't go very well. Now, I don't know if that was it did not meet his expectations. USC was not what he thought it was going to be. I've heard stuff that the Williams family has actually requested stuff from Lincoln Riley, and Lincoln Riley has not done that yet. And so, again, this is all stuff that I've heard. None of it's actually confirmed, and nobody's going to actually know unless you ask the Williams family or ask Caleb. And I don't think they're going to come out there and confirm any of that. But it's very interesting that he is not committed to USC. I mean, he literally decommitted from OU and said, I want to explore all my options and make sure I have the right path in front of me. Maybe there is a potential spot for him to come back to OU. I think OU fans just need to move on and expect him not to come back. If he comes back, shock the world. But it's interesting because he still is going to be taking a visit to LSU, Georgia, and then, of all places, Wisconsin. So I'm definitely curious to see kind of what his thought process is, especially with going to Wisconsin for a visit. That just doesn't seem like a place that a quarterback of his caliber and his talent would want to go. The only reason why I would think he would want to go there is because he's playing in the Big Ten, and he's going to be able to play, powerhouse schools, which is the second best conference. But at that point, I think you would go back to Maryland, which is your home. LSU and Georgia, I can understand. Both of those programs are going to be very good next year. LSU's been killing it in the transfer portal. So I actually think Caleb will end up at UCLA. Reason being is they're starting running back. I can't think of his name right now, but he led the Pac-12 in rushing yards last year. He could have went to the draft this year. And I think a lot of pointers were pointing to the fact that he was going to go into the draft. But as soon as he hung out with Caleb Williams, and after Caleb Williams' visit, he decided to not go to the draft, and he decided to come back for another season. Now, maybe Chip Kelly and some of the staff there convinced him to stay, but it's too big of a coincidence that he would hang out with Caleb Williams and then, literally right after Caleb Williams left from his visit, that he would decide not to go to the draft. It's not like he's going to be making a bunch of money on NIL deals, so you would think he would have went and wanted to get his money. And we could say, oh, he didn't go to the draft because of this being the largest draft class of all time. But if you're good enough, you're going to get drafted high. If you believe in your talents and you're good enough, you're going to play. So I think Caleb Williams ends up at UCLA. I don't know if USC is going to be the destination. I think he could shock the world, though, and come back to OU. But I think OU fans just need to be prepared that he is not going to be back at the University of Oklahoma for the start of the 2022 season. So, on that note, being an OU fan, guys, our future is really bright. Brent Venables is going to get this team prepared to go to the SEC. You've already seen the people that he's bringing in from the transfer portal, players that he's already offering. Rumors going around that Arch Manning might be taking a visit to the University of Oklahoma, which rumors originally had it that Arch Manning wanted to come to the University of Oklahoma to take a visit. But because we had a commitment from Malachi Nelson, who was the number 2 quarterback, and in actually some different rankings, Malachi Nelson was number 1 and Arch was number 2. So I think this is going to be interesting. If we think it's going to end after Caleb Williams, it's not. Expect for more players to enter the transfer portal, especially after the spring game, where players are going to figure out where they land on the depth chart. And let's keep an eye on this Arch Manning thing. I think one thing that we're going to see from the OU coaching staff that we haven't seen in the past 6 years is they're going to go after a quarterback every year, a highly talented quarterback every year. Lincoln Riley waited bi-yearly to go get a quarterback. And so I think we're going to start seeing depth in that quarterback room. We're going to see some real competition outside of that Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray year. I think we're going to see some real competition in that quarterback room. And I think OU is going to be okay. I think there's a chance that we could go to the national championship next year, barring injuries. Texas is going to be really good next year, so we got to watch out for them. I think, it would be really awesome to see an Alabama, Ohio State, USC, OU Final Four. I don't think the committee would pass up at all to put OU playing USC and Alabama playing Ohio State in that opening round. I mean, you're going to end up with good teams in the national championship regardless. So the ratings for those games would be ridiculous. So I'd say everybody buckle up. It's not over. There's still a lot of players in the transfer portal, a lot of movement that we need to keep an eye on. I'll keep you guys updated on any of the big moves. Obviously, I'll be making a video as soon as Caleb Williams announces his decision and reacting to that. But other than that, guys, I think OU is going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. So nobody freak out. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Keep an eye out for the Caleb Williams announcement, and I will talk to you guys later.